Ivdu Hashem Simcha. We're on page 120. We're beginning the next chapter. But just to recap what we learned at the end of yesterday's shir, and if anyone has any questions or comments, later on we could discuss them, because I didn't really give you a chance to interact with my monologue yesterday, because that's the way it went. But really, I'd like to hear from you. So if there's any issue that we learned yesterday that you want to talk about later, we could do that. Anyway, we learned yesterday that a person who uses their chushim, their senses, in the sense of arousing various feelings, and in particular he focused on seeing. And we've spent quite a bit of time talking about Re'iyah. And in yesterday's shir, he mentioned briefly the positivity of seeing and the negativity of seeing. Meaning to say, depends on what you see, that's what you're going to form in your brain, and it's going to last a long time, and it's going to touch you very deeply, which will be either good or bad. That was yesterday's shir. And he says that that's ultimately how you touch your tainug. In other words, what seeing is the vehicle, the senses, including seeing, is the vehicle which expresses one's pleasures, where one is at, as we discussed yesterday. Let's go now back into the text, 120. V'hinei hagam de binyan achayis. When you talk about life force, when you talk about animation, when you talk about chayas, where do you see more chayas? In the organs or in the senses? In the organs you see more chayas. The heart is pumping, the mind is thinking, Avram, right? The feet are moving, the hands are clapping, right? It's visible animation. In the chushim, you just, I'm looking at you, you don't see anything. I'm listening to you, it's all in me. Right? So there's less observable chayas, or better said, there's less chayas. There's less tangible life force coming from the soul to animate the chushim, in comparison to the animation from the soul to the organs. The chayas, and look how he says, the chayas, hachushim, the life force in the senses, hu mitzumtzam mi'oid, it's very limited. Ahavul mitzad inyan hatainug, but from the perspective of pleasure, there's an advantage to the senses over the organs. There's more pleasure that will be felt in seeing and hearing and smelling, etc., than there is in intellect, in the emotions, moving of the fingers, speaking, and all that. And he gives it and explains. As we see in real life, the kasha shoymea koilore, when someone hears a beautiful sound, we have a musician here, Avram, harihu mispoel be'etzem nafshoi. There is what we call hispalut, emotionalism, within the very essence of the soul of the person, betainug nifla miyoid, with a wondrous tainug. So when they sing so beautifully in the Karlbach Shul, and I loved going there Friday night, although I'm not officially a Karlbachnik, but I just got a high being around everybody. They were so freilach, and it was so beautiful. It brought out deep sense of tainug for Hashem. I'm not saying it's the only way, but the idea of music is so powerful that it can't touch the tainug sheba adam. And here the Rebbe introduces a new idea that needs a lot of good thought. You could be so impacted by music that you're ready to give your soul up for God. It's called in Hebrew Klois hanefesh, right, from the word extinction of the soul.
Yeah.
Mipnei, why? Yaakov, arivus neimus hakoil. Arivus neimus, because the voice is so sweet and it's so melodic, you start floating. And if you understand, and if you relate to that music that it comes from Hashem, you just want to be with God. You don't want to be anywhere else at that moment. Even if it means you leave. Now again, that's not the kavanah, that's not the purpose and the objective. As we know from the story of Rabbah and Reb Zera in Megillah, they sat Purim, and Rabbah intoxicated himself and also Reb Zera, but he could handle it. Reb Zera couldn't, and then it says, Kom Rabbah v'shochti le Reb Zera. Rabbah got up and he slaughtered Reb Zera. So the commentators will explain that shochti doesn't mean he actually slaughtered him, but he caused such an aliyah, an elevation to him that was overwhelming, so he fainted. He lost his sense of being. It was too much to him. What we see is that when a person reaches a place of tainug, which can overwhelm him, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. Yes, Yaakov.
My father's family were klezmorim in Europe. So it's very appropriate we're speaking about music today, which is a very nice protest.
Yeah, thank you.
My father was very musical, he was a violinist. He was a concert violinist.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. No, you see, it's all Ashgacha. I had no idea.
Our last name is Spiel.
Oh, Spiel. That's the last name, Spiel. Spiel means to play. Oh, beautiful. Spiel a violin. Let's go further inside. The kiloyin hanefesh, when it comes to extinction of the soul, habo mitzad tainug, coming from a sense of pleasure, hu bechush hashmiya od yosa mikmoy bechush ariya. Another fascinating statement. It's greater in the sense of hearing than it is in the sense of seeing. Kiloyin hanefesh, close hanefesh, will be easier accomplished if it should happen to a person, if it's coming because he hears something so beautiful rather than he sees something. And he continues. Let's see how he develops the idea. The Bechushariya, when it comes to seeing, Hurak be'inyan hadveikus. When you see something, you want to attach yourself to it. You want to cleave to it. Avaloi be'inyan hakiloyin. It doesn't call out, I don't want to exist. Now, listen to that difference, okay? We have two concepts here, Yoini. We have dveikus, attachment, connection, and we have kiloyin, extinction. Says the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rayatz, that Riyah will lead a person to, if it's the proper Riyah, to want to attach very strongly to the issue, to the item, to the point of what we call dveikut, like glue. Dabek is in Hebrew glue, inseparable. But nevertheless, listen to this, Yaakov. Will you exist? Absolutely. You are now so attached, and it's as though you can't leave. You're like glued together, but you exist. Whereas in Kiloyon, so in other words, Re'iyah, seeing, does not lead to Kiloyon, it leads only to Dveikus. But conversely...
What you're saying is it's a higher state of consciousness.
That's right. Whereas Shmiya is so powerful that it can also lead to Kiloyon. Let's see further. Let's go further inside. Although, excuse me, Asher Chush Ehoriyah Vashmiya Heim Shneim Hine Shneim Heim B'Dvarim Shem Chutz L'Odem. Both seeing and listening and hearing are senses that deal with the outside stimuli. My eyes see something from the outside. My ear hears music from the outside. Mikol Mokim, nevertheless, Hine Heim Chalukim B'Pulosam. It's true. both are triggered by the outside, but the result is very different between the two. And he continues. The impact of pleasure coming because of seeing the poil in Yinat. He repeats, this causes attachment. And such dveikus, Yoni, like we've been saying this week, that's beyond, that transcends time and space. The Gambi Yosef b'mokem acher, for even when he's somewhere else. And number two, v'achari b'zman, and much later, hini adover kumei nitzav le'negadein, of something that he saw is like standing in front of his eyes. So Avram, seeing something transcends time and place. Nevertheless, hine hatainuk ein the poel inyan kiloyin hakoichus. Tainuk will not cause elimination of the faculties. In other words, listen to this. Tainuk will cause, Yaakov, it will cause the betterment and improvement and highest standard of the koyach hariyah. The koyach hariyah, the power of seeing, is at its ultimate peak when it expresses tainuk, pleasure. But it's there. Nevertheless, conversely, upulas hatainuk, what's the result of pleasure? Of coming because of chushariya, the sense of hearing, who leirak being adveikus. Not only does it have the advantage of wanting to connect and attach, being kakiloyan, the emphasis, the chidush, the novelty of shmiya is that it can even lead you to the elimination of the self from hearing whatever you hear. And that's why we have the concept of fainting. We're going to talk about that soon. What's the reason, Yaakov? Because the sound of the song nichnas benikvei ha'ozen goes into the crevices of the ear, umagia be'udna deliba, and from there it touches the heart. Not the brain, the heart. So hearing the song, the sweet music, goes from the heart, it goes from the ear, you hear it here, and directly into the heart, not into the cup. And if it goes into the cup, guess what? Your composition will be lousy, or won't be as good as music coming from the heart. I'm not a great musician, although I did make a CD with 39 Hasidic nigunim that aren't my composition, but I explained the history of those nigunim, and I share how you're supposed to sing them and what they're supposed to arouse. The CD is called Hasidic Nigunim, Learn, Understand, and Sing. But nevertheless, the idea of singing, of song, is so powerful that it comes from the lev, and that's the best type of nigun and best type of song. And when a song is only limited to the mind, it's missing soul. Yes, Yoni.
So it's so interesting that we're learning this, but when you go to Kfarim, to Tzadikim,
yes,
or you go to the Krystal, you go to Hebron, all the holy places, Tzfat, you go to the Ariz Mikvah. So there's always this kedusha, there's all this holiness, you feel like this uplifting feeling. But I remember when I went a few years ago to Hadich, and in Hadich, where you're going, as soon as you get off the bus, the car, you hear the Baal Tanya's niggin. And these speakers, they have these speakers all over, and you just get into, even if you've never heard the niggin before, it doesn't matter. You hear it, and the whole experience is a totally different experience than any other kever, just because of the niggin. I mean, there's so many tzaddikim. I went to Mezhibush and Barditchev and all these holy places. But you go there, and something about the music, the niggin, it just brings you into a different realm. Mamish.
Right. Right. So you're supporting and backing what we're saying. I got it. Let's continue. Avram, what do you say about what do you say about what he says? What do you? Are you relating to what the Rebbe says?
Yeah, music is very powerful. It's all throughout the Torah, all throughout the Tehillim. It's about praise and share with music and everything. It's like when you hear music, it has an effect on you. It's not intellectual, like you're saying. It goes into the essence, your heart, and it moves you. And it moves you in direction. I remember when Yom Kippur was at Ace Kodesh davening, and the music was so incredible. I felt that my soul to leave my body. I felt like I was about to leave. I just felt myself just going. I said, "Wow!" It was the highest level of time you could even imagine.
Right. Great.
Being bound to
So now remember, you can bring back that sense if you reflect on that, and that's what he says, that years later and in other situations, if a person had that experience once and they allow themselves to go back, I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Whether it be, what's it called, what Dr. Tversky would do, in therapy.
Regression or something?
No, he regresses you, no? Not regression, therapy, forget what it's called now.
Hypnosis?
I'm saying whether it's hypnosis, with the different regression, hypnosis. Again, you know,
back to that place.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting one particular form or another. I'm just saying the idea of being brought back to a sense of peacefulness and wholesomeness is very powerful. And ultimately, we wish and hope that we accomplish it through a davening, a good davening, where you block out everything around you and you're able to just get into your davening. It sounds like what you described before, through the Nagina. Then you're there. You're there. So let's go back to the text. And he says, V'tam adover, second line from the bottom, the last few words on the second line. V'tam adover, the reason is the koil ashir, because the sound of the music nichtas benikvei ha'oizen, goes into the crevices of the ear, umakia bu'udna deliba, and reaches the inner heart. Shihan nekuda pnimisha belev. This is the inner essence of the heart, top of 121. The sham over there, hashroes yechida shebenefesh. Oh, what level of soul do you tap into, Yaakov, when you get into udna deliba, into the heart? Yoni, it's called yechida. There's 5 levels: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. The acronym is Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Each of the first 3 beginning letters spells out Naran, Chai. Naran, Chai. Chaya, Yechida. Chida is oneness. Ne'ilah is the Yechida experience. Says the Rebbe that when you get deep into the heart, you touch that Yechida. And you know what Yechida does? Look what he says, the very important words. Shemoishich kol ha-koiches elov. It then draws all other faculties to flow to you and to work properly. So all of a sudden, your head works better, your mind works better, your heart works better, your feet jump better, your hands play better, and every part of your body is functioning at a higher rate of success. You hear that? And this is why someone who was feeling not well in a certain organ, if their yechid is touched, and that's motivated, all of a sudden they feel better. In classical psychology, I call this, it's all a psychological state of mind. Most issues and illnesses have an association with the mindset of the person. Now, I say most, because if Chas v'Sholom someone has an illness that's factually, missing an organ, or a blemish of an organ, etc., so, what do you mean it's a state of mind? The state of mind is what you do about it. Like we said yesterday, are we morbid about it? Or do we accept that this is what Hashem wants of us for whatever reason, and we use it to the best of our ability, and we don't allow that to deter us? Yes, Yaakov?
I remember hearing a member from the Goyen, the Goyen says that Atzvus is the only man-made illness.
Oh, very good. And then there's the famous saying of the Karliner, Baron Karliner, I believe, just as Atzvus isn't a prohibition in the Torah, it's not a desecration of one of the 613 mitzvahs. Nevertheless, what Atzvus can lead to, no other sin can lead to. Depression can lead a person to the worst things more than any other sin can lead the person to. So too, they say in the name of Shlomo Karliner, going to the mikveh, although it's no mitzvah, he said going to the mikveh can lead a person to the highest of the best mitzvahs, etc. But that line that you said from the Goyen, I never heard, which is, again, let me repeat it, say it again, please, I want to remember it.
That Atzvus is the only man-made illness.
Atzvus is the only man-made illness. Good. So the Rebbe says here on top of 121 that through the air, hearing the music, touching the heart, it draws the yechida of one's soul into an active state of being, and what that does is it schleps along all the other faculties to work better. But it also, at times, makes it that all the koichos, the faculties, have extinction. And explains. The b'seichol harelo yesh tainik b'zeh. In intellect, there isn't real tainuk pleasure. Well, the choli in a tainuk shebaskola, because if you argue, hey, look, I understand something and I have pleasure, hurak be'in hatveikus levad. Tainuk is expressed through attachment. The pure intellect is not the abode of tainuk. The pure level of understanding is understanding. The fact that understanding might move you to dveikus, that's where the tainug is. V'chein bereach. Now the Rebbe speaks about sense of smell. Let's look at this. Shemagia, when a person smells, be'etzem chayas hanefesh, when you smell something, you can take the smelling salts and all that, it touches your very core, shelamayla ma'chayas ha'mespashes be'avodim, which is even greater than the chayas that is extended to the limbs, to the organs. V'lochein, ha'mesalif, some new faints, meshivim nafshay, how do you restore the person's soul? Al yedei hareach, through a sense of smelling something. The salfus usilu ka'ores hanefesh. What is fainting? It's the removal of the emanation of the soul, hamispashat be'vorei guf, that extends itself to the body. In other words, the kesher, the connection between soul and body, ceases to be temporarily vis-a-vis the state of faint. The horeach comes along smell. Magia be'etzem shelamaylam b'hispashtus. Where does smell reach, Yoni? It touches your core. So although, listen to this, a brilliant concept. Although you fainted, why? Because the connection has been severed. So I do something that goes beyond the connection, that's higher than connection. And guess what? That's inseparable. And that cannot be severed. What's that? Your essence. And this goes back to that argument that we say that every Jew's essence is perfect. Not that every Jew's essence is blemished, and if you do things properly, it becomes better. No. It might be dormant. It might have a lot of dust on it, but it's complete. The Rebbe says here that the sense of reyach is so powerful that it touches that place. And when it touches that place, the fact that, there was a severing of a connection, so I go beyond connection. There's something deeper than connection. Connection means conditional. That's what connection means. There's a reason and a procedure and a methodology how to connect. Well, and if you do it right, you get it. If you do it a little right, you're halfway. You don't do it at all right, you get nowhere. But then there's a place that's beyond that. And when that's touched, it causes only positivity. And so he says that the reyach, the sense of smell, it's not logical. You see, the point is like this. The faculties and the feelings are all gradual and logical. The senses touch the essence. Even if you don't understand that you see something, that's going to make a big impact on you as far as your tainuk. The sense of hearing music, even if you don't understand what you're hearing, will move you. And the sense of smell will revive you from a state of faint, even though you fainted. In other words, here's the question. Yoini. How can smell revive me? If I fainted because of A, B, and C, what is it about smell? What is it, abracadabra? So the Rebbe says, it's about, the sense of smell touches the etzer, the essence. And the essence never fainted. Because the essence is beyond fainting. What fainted? That part of your neshama, of your soul, that associates with the body. So if there's an issue with the body, it impacts that part of the soul. But if you touch the essence is beyond being corrupted. That's what he says. Further. The salfus usila ka'oras hanefesh hamaspashas bein v'aguf. V'horeach magia be'etzem shelamayla mispashtus. V'lochein, and therefore, hu meishiv es hanefesh, it brings back the soul. And now he talks about dibur. Listen to this chevra. The faculty of speech. Oh, we love to talk. There's great pleasure in talking. As we see in actuality, when a person speaks intellectual ideas, when you speak about an intellectual thought that you have more animation. Look here, right? Well, as I'm teaching you and speaking to you, I'm schwitzing, I'm animated. I have more chayas. The same thing, I can learn the same mimer to myself. It's quiet, it's passive, and it's not animated. And guess what? I won't have some of the same thoughts that I have when I actually utter the words with my mouth. More so, bedibur, more so there exists in the quality of speaking. He says, let's take emotions. When someone speaks words of love, I love you, it heightens the sense of love, more so, you love the person. What happens when you use words, endearing words, it actually intensifies the love. And that's the way, by the way, it's halachically between a husband and wife. It's not just, a 1, 2, 3, shacking up. There's a whole process, as explained in the Code of Jewish Law and in the Sfarim. The lovemaking and everything else as an intimacy from the Jewish halachic and Hasidic and Musar perspective is a very holy experience. Part of that experience is using your words to intensify the love, which is actually very important. Not just as psychologists say, because that's the way females operate. They like to hear things, and men are otherwise. That's also true. But because it brings in you and the man who utters those words, it heightens your sense of love. And if it heightens your sense of love, the other person who's the recipient of that love will feel it. And if you don't heighten your sense of love, they could feel like they're being used. Or they can feel very cold. Do you understand? So the Rebbe's point is, and by the way, he's not talking here about just love in the sense of intimacy. He's talking about any type of love, of real ava. When you use your words and they're coming from your heart, they go into the other person's heart. And that's the key here. You want to know what the key is to being a successful individual in all aspects of love, including in intimacy. It's Dvarim HaYotzim Min HaLev. In communication, in relationships, in harmonious relationships, in dealing with children and teenagers, and every aspect. Dvarim HaYotzim Min HaLev. Have you created a situation where your words are coming from your real heart? And if it comes from your real heart, the other person will sense it and say, I want to be with you. I want to hang out with you. You're so delicious. You're so great. You know what I'm saying? That concept. And look what the Rebbe says now. When the words that come from your heart, it's going to heighten the sense of love from the person to you, because they will feel that. Hadibur, so speech, it heightens the mind too. The mind will understand better when you speak things out. Not only will it be clearer to you the idea, is the idea deeper through speaking it out. New creative ideas come to you when you talk it out. Be it that he understands the idea better, be it that those new ideas that come to him while he talks. Guess what? The new ideas that come to you when you're talking will also make you understand better the ancillary things that you're not talking about right now. You might talk about it later, etc., etc. They will also be understood better. Why? Because you've now created a heightened sense of understanding. And we finish with this. Or even if they're not directly, the ancillary things that are directly coming from the idea, even if the kind of side byproducts will also be understood better. All of this is because, look what the Rebbe says, it's not because of speech itself, Yaakov, it's because of the tainuk shebedibur. When there's tainuk, there's pleasure in your dibur, then everything else becomes greater, heightened. Okay, Chevra, maybe on Monday, Mr. Hashem, we'll go over the last part. So again, we'll keep the time the same. Yes? No, this week's no. Wait, no. Yaakov, this week I said that we're going to start 5 minutes later. Go ahead. Yeah, what? What, Avram?
I was just going to say good Shabbos.
Oh, yeah, so everyone should have a good Shabbos. Remember, 5 minutes later, Zay Gesund. We'll see everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. Good Shabbos.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.